Good evening. I've just had to issue a formal warning to Lord Young of Acton for an inappropriate joke made in the Speaker pub, his own event where he's hosting a Stop the Banter Ban get-together of comrades. He started saying something about a rabbi and an imam walking into a pub, and I put a stop to that very quickly. But Lord Young, if you could explain to co-conspirators, what is the Banter Ban and how are you fighting it?
So the Banter Ban is Clause 20 of the Employment Rights Bill. And what that does is it extends the liability of employers for the harassment of their employees by third parties. So it amends the Equality Act to increase the scope of the Equality Act. And we know from successive employment tribunal cases that harassment is now defined extremely broadly and includes overheard conversations. So what it means is that publicans, restaurateurs, hoteliers, bar owners are going to have to take all reasonable steps to protect their staff from overhearing contentious remarks, jokes, conversations that they might find offensive or upsetting by virtue of their protected characteristics. And not just hospitality venues, but also sports stadiums. So if, a sports fan says to a referee when he makes a poor decision, "Are you blind?" a partially sighted steward could sue the club for not taking all reasonable steps from protecting him from being harassed in that way by virtue of his protected characteristic, his partial sightedness. So, if Sakir has his way, it won't just be Arsenal that's a library, it'll be every stadium in the country.
That's dystopian, and obviously Labour's going to push this through the Commons. How are you fighting it in the Lords?
Yeah, well, the official opposition did table a couple of motions in the Commons to try and scrap the Banter Ban, or at the very least dilute it, and failed. Every single Labour MP, including every single Lib Dem MP, filed into the no lobby. And I've tabled some amendments in the Lords to try and at least mitigate some of its more authoritarian aspects. And yesterday in the Lords, I did my best to try and persuade the government that this was a crazy idea. It was going to impose an extraordinary burden on the hospitality sector in particular, which is already on its knees. According to the Campaign for Real Ale, 37 pubs are closing every week. I mean, it'll double once the Banter Ban comes in. I mean, how attractive will it be to actually go to a pub if there's a banter bouncer in every beer garden, and a pronoun policy on every wall, and before you get served, you have to produce a DEI certificate.
And God forbid, if this does come in, prohibition, we fight it in numerous ways. It usually fails. Do you have any advice to co-conspirators if this 1984 style situation does come in? How do we fight the Banter Ban if it's enforced?
Well, if the Banter Ban is enforced, I think our advice will be, if you end up being barred from a pub or a restaurant or a bar because you've expressed, a controversial, unfashionable opinion about, say, the gender-neutral toilets, you could sue the pub in the, I guess probably in the county court for discrimination. And you would argue that your belief, say, in the biological reality of sex is a protected belief under the Equality Act, and you have therefore been discriminated against because you've been banned from the pub for expressing it. So there is a kind of long road to try and ameliorate the effects of the Banter Ban, but my God, it's going to take a lot of money and a lot of time to try and, roll it back through the courts.
Well, I think we can agree Starmer is set on ensuring Britain is devoured by lawfare. Co-conspirators can catch a play-by-play analysis of Lord Young's battle against the Banter Ban on the Guido Fawkes news website. Meanwhile, I've got to kick this lord out of this pub. Cheers. I'm here with Lee Anderson, who I've just had to evict from this pub for a joke he made. I can't repeat it to you now, but it was dirty. Now, Lee, how many pubs have you been evicted from in your time?
Well, to be honest with you, I've been thrown out of better places than this in my time. I've been thrown out of quite a few back in the 80s and 90s, thrown out a few pubs. I shall not be frequenting them ever again. I've got my reputation to think about.
And how many pubs do you often visit in Westminster? Which are your favourites?
Oh, I don't know, mate. I mean, they're not very... They're full of wokey, lefty, liberal, vegans, vegetarians. Yeah, some right weirdos in these pubs around here. I do like the Mog, to be honest, on a Tuesday night. That's pretty good. But the rest of them, mate, it's full of wet. So I sooner get back up home and get into it with the spoons.
Co-conspirators should know that is accurate. There are wets everywhere. Now, if the banter ban does come in, the only way to fight prohibition is surely to make the jokes, do the banter. Is that what you advise co-conspirators to do?
I do.
Make the jokes extra salacious.
But I mean, there's been like an influx of imbeciles and idiots that's talking about banning banter in pubs. But these are the idiots that don't go in pubs, so we've got no problem there. So they won't be able to report us. And I say, get in every pub's a parliament. Everybody in the pub's is a football manager, is a prime minister, is an expert in something. Get in there and say what you think.
Well, I hope co-conspirators go to Parliament, otherwise known as Weatherspoons, and see Lee there. Cheers. So I've also had to evict Greg Smith, MP, one of the most outspoken Tory MPs, who has many times frequented this particular pub and hopefully won't anymore, because a little too much banter for co-conspirators, I think. So Greg, when did you first get evicted from a pub?
Well, clearly tonight. I mean, it's not even law yet, but they're already getting scared about it. The Employment Rights Bill is full of these horror stories, the banter ban being one of the absolute worst of them, that anyone can, for the most mild comment, someone else can take offence and suddenly you're thrown out. It's classic nanny state, bonkers socialist, left-wing politics at play, the Labour Party pushing it, the Liberal Democrats propping them up, and it's the Conservatives fighting it.
And if Angela Rayner was right here, what would you say to her at this very moment?
Oh, there's a million things I could say to Angela Rayner, the way she's destroying jobs in this economy. But on the banter ban, it really appealed to her, as someone that actually is a bit outspoken herself, to think about what she's doing. This is a law that says that anyone who takes the most mild offence, maybe it's at a bit of a fruity joke, or maybe it's over some political stance, maybe it's a bunch of guys or girls talking about the Israel-Hamas war, that someone then takes offence at that because they're serving drinks or food or whatever in the pub or the restaurant, and takes their employer to court. What on earth is this about? That isn't free speech. That's not British values. That's not the way we run our country. This is a crazy rule that actually I think Angela Rayner herself might find herself on the wrong side of.
Well, I think co-conspirators can agree we need to get this man a cab.